Welcome to the Disney Parks Podcast with your hosts, Tony Casanova from DisneyByTheNumbers.com and Parkhopper John from WDWParkhoppers.com. Keep your hands, arms, feet, and legs inside the podcast at all times. And get ready for the Disney Parks Podcast.
Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to the Disney Parks Podcast. Today, we have an incredible guest with us. Tao Nguyen is an artist and former animator who has worked at several major Hollywood film studios, such as Disney, DreamWorks, and Warner Brothers. He is a feature animator, and he has 14 film credits to date and has even published a book series. So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show, Mr. Tao Nguyen. Good evening.
Thank you. Good evening. Thank you.
Yeah. So, Tao, you know, we had met at the Disney Anna meeting, and you had told such a great, fascinating story of, you know, how you got involved in the whole animation and art process. Let's start with, like, how did you decide, hey, you know, animation is something that I think I want to get into?
Well, it started my high school year, my senior high school year. I guess that's when you start deciding to what college you're going to go into and what career and what your life path is going to be. My senior year, that's what I was watching a movie called Who Framed Roger Rabbit, and I was pretty fascinated by it. It's like, that's pretty cool. And I draw and I doodle, and I said, you know, I like art, and animation seems fun. So that's what got me into it, is that movie. And then so what I did was I started calling Disney feature animation. I called the studios, and I said, hey, I'm an artist. Do you have some positions open where you can train artists? I'll do anything. I'll pick up the trash. I'll mop the floors. All I want to do is for you guys to train me. And they said, well, we don't do that anymore. But if you want to, you could go to Cal Arts. That's a school that we helped build. And that's what I did. I applied to Cal Arts. I didn't make it in my first year, but my second year I made it in.
You know, that's an interesting that you... Well, I was just telling the story of Who Framed Roger Rabbit, where, you know, somebody, one of the animators had put Michael Eisner's phone number on the billboard. So it's funny that you just mentioned that. So,
in most of the movies, there are a lot of artists. We'll put in like little touches in there that inside gags, you know, as the animators and the artists would know. So a lot of them do that with background painters. They'll probably paint like their daughter's name or their wife's name, and so we tend to do that sometimes.
Yeah, that's cool. That's very cool.
When you got into Cal Arts, what was that experience like? Because I've read books and people talk about being in Cal Arts, and I just imagine it as just this incredible place. Could you kind of explain a little bit about the atmosphere and what it's like, and maybe kind of, you know, what you did while you were studying there? Okay,
there's like two sides of Cal Arts. There's Cal Arts, the college party side, and there's Cal Arts, the film and video department. I was in the film and video department in the animation school. When I got there, I moved from Oregon to California and attended California Institute of the Arts. When I got there to Cal Arts, I felt like a little fish in a big pond. I was like, I met all these amazing artists. I was like, whoa, you know, in Oregon, I blew away everybody. I was like, you know, I stood out. I had talent. But then when you get in a bowl with a whole bunch of other sharks out there, and you're like going, wow, I thought I was good, but these guys are pretty good too. So, and what's cool is that we fed off of each other. We inspired each other, encouraged each other, and we helped each other grow. And during that year at Cal Arts, 1990 to 92, we had some big top animators who went on to become top animators and creators, like Gendy, who created Samurai Jack and Hotel Transylvania and the Powderpuff Girls. He was my classmate, and also Sergio Pablos. You know, he created the Despicable Me. So all these guys during my year, we all went either to Pixar or Disney or became worked in TV animation, and that year, 90 to 92, there were a bunch of talents in that year.
So is it, once you go to Cal Arts and then you're ready to graduate, do the studios come knocking on your door and say, hey, why don't you come work for us? Or is it hard to, get out there and then finally get that job?
Well, at that time, here's the thing. I went for 2 years. And, it's a private college where you can go for 4 years and get your bachelor's. But in the art and animation world, it's about talent. It's not how many degrees you have. It's about your talent. So some people, 1 year, they could probably go to Disney. Most of us went for 2 years because we found out you don't need a degree to work in animation. So so when we graduated, some of them graduated after 2 years, just get an associate, just to get your foot wet, and then to learn what we needed to learn. Because the first year you would do a silent film in animation. The second year you would do a film in dialogue, and then from then on you pretty much learned everything. So in 2 years you will put a reel out there. So you will have a reel. Of course, you can always submit to the studios, or some of the studios keep their eyes on what's called a producer show. A producer show is where they have these top, best 25 films out there at Cal Arts, because you got a few hundred students from freshman to senior year, so they're competing, and then you got these top films out there, and the studios are looking at these films. Now, of course, not everybody is drawing like Disney. Everybody's got their own talent and style. Like Gendy, he was doing more like Cartoon Network stuff. There's other people who were into Simpsons. And, of course, me and a whole bunch of other people were into Disney. So we were doing Disney-type films. So it's a great variation of different styles out there. And to answer your question, you're done with your school. You build up this amazing portfolio, this demo reel. That's when you start submitting to where you want to go. So, like I said, during that time, they had Film Roman, which did The Simpsons. They had Disney Feature Animation. Warner's was just starting up. Warner Brothers Feature Animation was just starting up. But there was Warner's TV Animation, where I think Tiny Toons was really hot back then.
Right.
And then you got, of course, Disney Feature Animation. When I was at Cal Arts, they were doing Beauty and the Beast. So depending on what style and what where you want to go, you would either submit, or if the studio saw potential in you as an animator, or you fit their needs, they will come to you.
So once you got out of college, what was your first real paying gig that you got?
Well, it just took me a while finding a job because at Cal Arts they teach animators. They don't teach cleanup artists, and there was so many positions out there with cleanup positions. What you basically do is you have this rough animator or these animators that they draw really rough drawings, and then they get the cleanup artists like myself who come in and make that drawing slick and on model and perfect, beautiful looking, But at Cal Arts they don't teach cleanup, so It's kind of like 22, and you want that cleanup job, but yet you're an animator, so they only produce animators or directors, So it's really hard getting that type of job. So ask me your question again. What was that question?
Well, we were curious what your first real paid animation, or your first real, when you landed your first job out of college. What was that?
Okay, my first, I started in commercials. I was doing effects animation, and so I did the effects on Mr. Clean, the little shine, that thing,
right,
on his earring. So I did that and these flag waves, and then later on, I did some other. My first character animation job was working on a Fruity Pebbles commercial where I did some cleanup on Fred Flintstone. So that was so cool, just like this to have that, not only have that on my resume, but to work on a iconic character. Who doesn't know Fred Flintstone,
Yeah, really. I mean, I go back to like Fred Flintstone, George Jetson. Those are my iconic, characters from my youth. So, yeah.
Right. We all grew up with them.
Yeah, very cool.
Yeah.
So, you mentioned a cleanup artist, and I was looking through, kind of your IMDb, and you had a bunch of different, I guess, titles, and I was like, I wonder what all these mean. So, you kind of defined what a cleanup artist. What is a breakdown artist?
Even in cleanup, there's a breakdown animator, breakdown animator, and there's also a cleanup breakdown artist. Basically, you have your key guys, your key animators, and your key cleanup actors, and they do the main key poses, which is a guide for the in-betweeners. Then, if the movement is pretty easy and subtle, it will go just straight to in-betweens. But when you get a character that's like flying around and swishing his arm and turning around and giving different poses, and it's making it really complicated for the in-betweeners to follow, then that's where they'll throw in the breakdown artists, where they'll break down the drawings they'll break down the key poses to help the in-betweeners figure out what's the next drawing to do.
Fascinating. Yeah, so, all right, so we kind of go from the animator or artist to the cleanup, and then maybe breakdown, and then in-betweener?
Yes, right.
Gotcha.
So I was going to say the highest position I ever got was the cleanup supervisor.
Okay. And what would be a key assistant animator?
Key assistant animator is where you do the key drawings. So the animator will do the key poses, and you will do the key drawings from the animator's drawing, and also you'll do some breakdowns and help out the in-betweeners. So you are kind of like figuring out, you're the leader. You're kind of like doing the key poses.
Right.
So let's say the beast is looking from left to right. So you would do that left drawing and the right drawing, so that way the in-betweeners will figure out. And then the breakdown artist would do that middle pose where he'll turn to the middle and then turn to the right. And then sometimes you'll even add more breakdowns.
Wow.
And more. So it depends on the scene. You'll keep adding until, again, making it easier for the in-betweeners to figure out what to draw.
I always thought there was like maybe two positions. I thought there was somebody that drew the characters, and they did that from start to finish, and then everything in between. And then I thought there was somebody that just did background, and then those two things kind of just meshed up, and that was an animated film, and that was that. So to find out that there's all these other people that are involved in just even a character is, fascinating information.
Right.
It's a whole new appreciation for what happens on the screen now.
Yeah, it's an amazing process, and you have, let's say you have a character, like I've worked on so many characters, like Princess Kita, and I worked on Treasure Planet, I worked on Captain Amelia and Scroop, even the Iron Giant. The characters, most films, you would be cast on a character, and that character, depending on how much footage they appear on the screen, so if it's a main lead character, you can have a crew from, let's say, anywhere from 10 to 20, 20 or more on that character. And you got these animators and assistant animators, and you have these rough in-betweeners and these breakdown artists, and then it goes to cleanup where you have the key lead animators, and then the assistant animators, and then the breakdown, and then the in-betweeners. So in-betweeners, you can have 4 to 7 in-betweeners.
Wow.
On that same character. So a crew, you will see, as the list goes by, the credits go by, you'll see, depending on what the character, if it's a main character, you're going to have a crew from, 10 to 25 or even more. It depends on, again, the character design. Because, like the Beast, he could have a lot of artists.
Right.
Where he's a main character, and then where you have something simple where I worked on the Iron Giant, where the main character doesn't have to have too many artists.
Now, the kind of animation you were doing was more of the hand-drawn type that Disney feature animation does, not so much of what the Pixar computer type does, correct?
Right. Yeah. I do the 2 hand drawing, just like what Walt did.
So you mentioned Iron Giant, which is one of my favorite movies, has been for a long time. And I was wondering if you had a favorite movie that you've worked on or a favorite project that you just always go back to as just one of those best memories.
Well, like I said, I have so many films that I worked on. A lot of them do have, especially the early ones, have very special meanings to me. Especially like working on Fantasia 2000. That was like my first film for Disney. I worked on the sprite, the Firebird sequence, and at that time, with Roy Disney Jr. and I was like, my first film for Disney, and I'm like, wow, you really, you felt so special. There's like they're trying to like bring back that magic, and I was like, from that, compared to, let's say, I worked on Home on the Range, which, like I've been through it and I've been there, and it's not as special, So working on like Fantasia 2000, so that's my first film for Disney, and then working on the Prince of Egypt for DreamWorks, that was their first film. So their first animated feature film was the Prince of Egypt, and they had something to prove. I mean, these guys were serious. They were like really ready to go and compete. For the people who didn't know that, DreamWorks and Disney were very competitive. They were rivals. They didn't like each other. And DreamWorks had something to prove. They're like, we can do it too. So that's why working on that film, The Prince of Egypt, was so serious. I mean, people were like, they wanted to show their talent. They wanted to do something special. So that was cool too, So each film was a little bit different. And just the Iron Giant, just to have Brad Bird, it was like, wow, Like if you watch over, when we watched the screenings of it, you're like, oh, this is so cool, man. This is like Brad leading the chariot. I mean, he's such a visionary. He's got a great sense of storytelling. And so that's different too. And then when I work on Atlantis, and then Treasure Planet. Treasure Planet was like a fun movie. It's just like a Jules Verne. Like you just want to, like a Saturday, you just want to sit at the movie theater and just enjoy, just escape. So this sci-fi movie, working on Captain Emelian's group, the characters are not realistic. So there's a lot of action and a lot of movement, so that's fun for the animators. Yeah. So each movie is so different,
Right. Yeah. When you do a movie like Iron Giant, how closely do you get to work with the Brad Birds and the other producer and directors?
Well, he does. I mean, he does accept input, which is really cool. I mean, yeah, he does have the bulk of the story. The bulk of everything is pretty much set. Not everything's set in stone, but the bulk of it is pretty much what he says it's going to be. He does listen, and he does take feedback from the artists, so which is cool. With the Iron Giant, that film was really unique and different in a way, because most of the films that I worked on, you're like tagged, you're like assigned to one character or two characters, and you're going to be drawing that whole character for the whole entire film. But on the Iron Giant, you draw the whole scene. So you're drawing like, if there's 4 characters in that sequence, in that scene, you're drawing all 4 characters instead of that one character that you're assigned to. So it's a little bit unique and different, you know?
Now, when you're working for a studio, whether it's Disney, DreamWorks, or Warner Brothers, let's say, you're not really an employee. You're really a contractor to do a contract for, say, a movie. Is that the way that works?
No, you're actually, this is how it works. You are an employee of that studio.
Okay.
So I work for Disney. I'm a Disney employee. I get a Disney badge. I get the Disney perks. Everything that I draw and do belongs to Disney.
Right.
So the only thing is when back in those days, you're in contract for 1 or 2 picture deal. So the contract states that you are working on that movie and you will not be working on another movie or another rival studio. So during back that time, there were the 3 majors with Warner's, DreamWorks, and Disney.
Right.
You are in the contract and you're stuck to finishing that film. So it really goes their way, the studio's way. You're committed to finish that film. And with a second movie, and sometimes they don't give you the title. It says like movie title. They don't really tell you. Some do tell you, like, oh, so after Atlantis, you're going to be working on Treasure Planet. So they'll put that in the contract, okay. Treasure Planet. So when you get the contract is to prevent you from leaving and moving to another studio, just because back at that time, competition was very fierce. Studios were stealing artists from other studios. Once the contract's done, the artist is really free to go. But in the 2-movie case, the studio can pick you up for the second movie or they can let you go. So if you don't prove yourself in the first movie, then the studio might say, we don't need you for the second movie. And that's when you'll probably try to go to the other studios. Right. But most of the time, they try to hold you on for like a 2-picture deal. And a 2-picture deal could mean you could be there from a year to 4 years, depending how long it takes for those movies to finish.
So I was going to ask about how long does a normal, feature animation film take nowadays from start to finish?
Well, back then, they were really trying to do a movie a year. I mean, that's not like in the old days where they could take 4 years to do a movie. Nowadays, it's like they're trying to do a movie a year, and even at that time when I was working there, I was working at Disney Feature Animation California. They started up a Florida unit. So they were trying to put 2 movies out a year. So they would have a summer release and then a winter release. So they were really trying to push it. And I didn't think that was good because they're really trying to rush it. So they should have just take the time and just focus on the quality.
Why do you think they, out of curiosity, maybe you don't know, why do you think they closed up the Florida production? Just maybe it was the quality?
No, it's not really. It's just, again, when you're talking with movie studios, it's all about money. Yeah. How much the filmmaking, and is it even worth it to make? Are we going to get our money back? Are we going to make money? Of course, the answer is they will make money, but I don't know why they close it. But, it's not enough. It's always like every movie's compared to The Lion King. Does this movie make enough like The Lion King? No, But it did make money, but it's not like The Lion King. So it's just the studio's preference.
I have dogs, so I have to hit the mute button every now and then. So I just forgot to hit. So transitioning from there, so you're at the movie studio. So, what are you doing nowadays? Basically,
right now I'm a freelance artist, and I do this right now with the movie experience that I got. I can venture off to other things. I can do books. I can do TV animation. Right now, for an artist position, because they're not doing traditional 2D character animation, You can do storyboards. You can do character design. You can do layout. You can do, like, I just got done working for Warner Brothers doing character design for Warner TV animation, doing character design. But also here in Florida and also in California, they had the Disney Design Group or Consumer Products where you can do merchandise, theme parks. So there's a lot of artistic jobs out there.
What I really wanted to ask about was you mentioned that there's a book series. Tell us about your book series.
My book series?
Yes.
I did a children's book, a series of children's book called Mite. It's about a family who adopts a little alien kid. So basically it's a family of, let's say, 4. You have mom and dad and the 2 sisters. They're about just like over 10 years ago. They have 2 sisters. So this dad, he's your macho man dad, your caveman dad, who barbecues, who watch ESPN 1, 2, 3, you know. He's your manly man, and he's surrounded by females. And he wants a son. And they go to the doctor, and they find out they can't have any more kids. And he's like, no. So what happened is one day while he was traveling, a little tiny spaceship crash lands into Earth, and he finds out it's this little alien boy. So he takes him home. So they adopt this little alien boy. He's about 2.5 inches tall, but they don't care. You know, he doesn't care. He's got himself a boy. So, but this little boy, this little alien boy, they raise him up from a baby. When he gets bigger, I mean, he drinks anything that's calcium. He'll get really strong. So he's got superpowers. So he turns into this superhero called Mighty Mite, which is the world's smallest superhero. So that's where the concept of the whole story is about.
Where can people find that, Tao?
I've only published about a limited edition of 2,000. I have 3 books and about 2,000 per title. So there was book 1, book 2, and book 3. Mm-hmm. Most of it is pretty much sold out. So okay. I only have just a few left. That's all.
You know, one question I was thinking about was, you know, you've done so many characters, but is there a favorite character that you like to, you know, you're sitting down, you're watching television, and you like to, you know, doodle. What favorite character is your go-to character when you're sitting down to just relax and you want to draw something?
Just for fun.
Yeah, just for fun.
No, I still draw. I think Mickey is the funnest character to draw. Mm. So just because he's you know, he's one of my favorites. For animation wise, he's really good for learning. I mean, they use his body. You know, the head without the ears, and you could use his body and just make this really good learning process for animation. So, and that's why I like using him because he's pretty almost human too. Besides the tail and the ears, but he's pretty human. So you can do a lot of fun cartoony stretch and facial expressions, and that's the cool thing. He's not like an octopus where you're like, does that look right? Well, Mickey is pretty hard to draw, believe it or not. To draw right, Mickey is very hard. Even for some of the best artists out there, I've seen well-known painters and things, but when they draw and paint Mickey, he's very off-model. So he's one of the hardest to draw, and a lot of time I try to focus on him. I want to be like one of the best Mickey artists out there. But again, you know, if you can draw him, then you can pretty much draw the characters. You know, he's really hard to draw.
If you could work on any animated film in history, you know, going back to the Snow White, or you know, whatever, you know, studio, you know, what film would you have liked to have worked on, and maybe what character would you have done?
Oh, okay.
It's a tough question.
You know what? It comes out of my head. Seriously, if you're talking about like claymation or animatronics, I would have done Nightmare. Nightmare is one of my favorite all-time Disney movies. That's not it's animation. It's classified as animation, but it's not 2D animation. I just that's one of my favorite all-time movies. But for hand drawn, if we were gonna go and look back at some of the classics, I would love to do either Peter Pan,
right,
or even Sleeping Beauty. I just love the style of it. Peter Pan's so fun. It's so animated. There's so many characters there, and Hook. I just love Hook. I mean, that they have some incredible animators working back then on that movie. So, man, if I was, some of the 9 old men, if I could just work with them, I would have been, in heaven.
So, Tao, if there's somebody listening to the podcast who really has a deep desire to become an animator or any of the positions, the assistant animator, the in-between cleanup artist, breakdown artist, what would you tell somebody who has that passion or goal?
Okay, first of all, if you really, really want to do it, you really have to live it. You have to eat, sleep, drink, breathe animation. You really have to live it. Even though I went to CalArts and I got some training there, I wasn't that, it helped me, but my heart wasn't there. It was after a while when I really, 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 really wanted to work for Disney. I mean, from CalArts to working at Disney, it took me 7 years to get into Disney. I've always wanted to work there. So about a couple of years before I got into Disney, I got serious. I mean, I just kept going to classes. I kept practicing drawing. I kept trying to follow whatever Disney did. All these artists, I met a whole bunch of them, and they taught me what to look out for, what to draw. They showed me their portfolio, showed me their reels, and I was like, okay, I can do that. So I surrounded myself with these people who are actually working for the studio of my dream. So for the people out there who really want to pursue animation, right now there's 3D animation. If you want to be a 3D animator, you gotta get your foot wet. You gotta just surround yourself and keep building your knowledge of learning what 3D animation is. If you want to be a 2D artist, there's a whole bunch of jobs out there too. There's like storyboard artists, character design, there's layout. So you have to really, really focus on that area. So you got to meet other layout artists. You got to keep drawing layout stuff or character design. You got to keep drawing characters and keep practicing and build the best portfolio or demo reel that you can do. It's not about quality. It's not about quantity, how many drawings you have. It's about quality. It's like submitting just the best stuff that you have. I heard a guy got hired into Lucas Arts just with 1 or 2 drawings.
Wow.
And yeah, it's not about quantity, it's about quality. So you want to submit your best stuff, and you got to surround yourself. You got to live in that world. You got to follow that dream. And again, don't let anybody tell you can't do it, because I had somebody who told me too. They said, "Oh, you're not going to make it as an animator, or you won't make it." I'm like, "Oh, really?" And that's when I just really, really focused on drawing. I lost a lot of friends. I had practically no friends at all. I was like such a nerd, carrying my book around, going to the LA Zoo and just start drawing. And I had all these drawing books, and and I watched all these Disney movies. I was living that world. So then, and nothing was getting in my way.
I always liked the art of, and then some Disney movie, Frozen, Lion King, Beauty and the Beast, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Those books are fascinating, and they're great coffee table books. So, is there a software program or application that you would suggest to somebody that wanted to get started in 3D or 2D?
Again, it all depends on what they want to do.
Yeah.
Like if you want to do 3D animation, you gotta learn Maya. You know, that's what most of the main studios use is Maya. And if you want to do like 2D animation, if you just want to mess around, you can do Flash and now there's a whole bunch of other programs out there to help you do like 2D animation, even Photoshop. I've seen some people do animation in Photoshop,
right,
and Toon. So there's a lot of programs out there. You just got to research and figure out what you want to do first, and then get the program to help you.
Perfect. Okay, so Tao, where can people find you on the internet if they want to, look at some of your art or even get in touch with you?
Well, there are several places where you can find me. Basically, if you Google Tao Nguyen Disney, a lot of my drawings will pop up. I have my artwork out on DeviantArt. I have my artwork out on ArtStation. So DeviantArt.com, ArtStation.com, or you can follow me on Instagram at Tao Nguyen Art, or on Facebook, Tao Nguyen Arts on Facebook. I post up my artwork, and once in a while I'll do a tutorial. I'll explain how things are done, how my artwork's done, and so I got a lot of students too who follow along.
Yeah, cool. So we'll put up some links too, because I did some Google searches too, and I did find a lot of your stuff online, which was cool. So, and you do have a lot. I think in both of the places that you mentioned, most of the portfolio that I saw at Disneyana that you brought is up there, so it's very cool. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, I think that's it. John, you have anything else exciting?
No, I was blown away. I love being able to talk to creators who do this, especially on movies that I love so much. Prince of Egypt, like I said, Iron Robot. So thank you so much for talking to us today.
Yeah. I can't draw my name, so anybody that can do better than that is a hero. Brother, in my book.
I love you. You can barely write your name. I'm just saying.
I know. Hey, Tao, thanks for stopping by. We'll have to have you back on. Maybe, when you roll off some kind of great project, you come back and you can tell us, what that experience was like. We'll love to share it.
Okay. Thank you so much for having me on.
All right. And we'll see you in the parks.
The Disney Parks podcast is not affiliated with the Walt Disney Company. All Disney parks, attractions, lands, shows, event names, etc. are registered trademarks of the Walt Disney Company.
Like a bolt out of the blue, fate steps in and sees